To the victor goes the throne. Here's your look at the new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Lex Luthor Power Suits. A brilliant businessman and inventor, billionaire Lex Luthor once saw himself as the most powerful man on Earth, until Superman arrived. Rather than using his wealth and genius to help humanity, Luthor used his gifts in repeated attempts to destroy the Man of Steel. But after the death of Darkseid in the Darkseid War, Luthor absorbs the tyrannical ruler's incredible power and leaves Metropolis for Apocalypse. Upon arrival, Luthor creates a new power suit, one emblazed with Superman's S-shield on his chest, and becomes the new god of Apocalypse. Corrupt power corrupts absolutely. Before we get a closer look at Lex Luthor and his power suits, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that provided this sample that we could have a look at in this review. For a couple of size comparisons, once again, we'll bring in the Man of Steel. After all, that seems to be a perfect foil for Lex Luthor. We can also, speaking of which, bring in Lex Luthor as well. A figure that I still love is one of my top 5 favorites of the DC Multiverse. And then just recently, we also look at Superboy Prime, so it would be good to bring him in as well. Of the head sculpt on Superboy Prime. I'm still tempted to get another one of these and maybe do a little bit of body swapping with the Superman. But you can see, though, Lex Luthor in his power suit is roughly about the same size as the other figures, and proportionally he's about the same body as the other Lex Luthor that we already looked at. Power suit Lex Luthor gets afforded some additional molding of plastic as he does get himself the throne that he can sit on. But before we actually look at the throne, let's look at some of the other things that come included with the figure. One of which being a trading card. Now, the trading card actually still depicts the figure of Lex Luthor sitting on the throne. Something that also comes included, at least of the image, is a mother box. Now, I would have loved to see a mother box coming included with the power suit Lex Luthor. Sadly, though, he doesn't. He comes only with the throne, and he only comes with the display stand. Spin this around to the back. On the back, it tells you the real name, which is Alexander Lex Luthor, and a read-up as well. The same read-up that I used at the beginning of this review, FYI. Let's put that trading card to the side. Lex Luthor also comes included with the display stand. Of course, if you don't want to have him displayed on the throne, but I don't know. I think the throne's too cool to pass on. The DC logo, some strange reason, has been worn off of my display stand. It's not completely a finished DC logo. I only have like 100 of these anyways kicking around that I could easily use this for something else. And again, I'm probably not going to display this Lex Luthor with the stand anyways. I appreciate the fact that they included display stand, but definitely going to be beelining it over to the throne room instead. We'll move that to the side as well. And like I said, he does come included with the throne. We're going to go ahead and pick that up. It's generally quite a light throne too, being that primarily all of it's hollow on the back and quite hollow on the inside as well. But it's painted really nicely. All the different logos, or well, not so much logos, but the little symbols crafted onto the side as well, not to mention on the back there as well. The way that they've done this, they've textured it so it looks like stone. It actually kind of looks like those, is it Whoppers? Or those crispy chocolate bars. You know, it's got a crispy wafer on the inside, and then it's dipped in chocolate. It's kind of what it reminds me of as well. Kind of also looks a little bit like a loofah sponge. Getting way off topic. But it's a nice looking throne room though. Nice throne chair at least. Has some additional paint wash added in there as well. It does certainly fill in all the nooks and crannies. It does look a little bit like a loofah sponge. But you can go ahead and take your figure, of course. Bend the legs. Bend the knees. Sure, I don't have to walk you through how to bend the figure in order to get him sitting on a throne, but you can easily get Lex Luthor sitting on top of the throne. Let's just straighten out his legs. There we go. The figure does look quite good on the throne, and even though, yes, it's going to be taking up a little bit more real estate space on the shelf, I'm definitely going to be considering displaying the power suit Lex Luthor with the throne, because it's just too, like I said, it's too cool to leave off as an accessory. Let's go ahead and take the figure now. We'll just move this out of the way for the time being. It will be coming back later on into the end of this review. And let's get a closer look now at Lex Luthor with his power suit. Again, I'm a little disappointed the fact that the figure didn't come included with a mother box. I feel like that would have been a instant accessory that they would have thrown in with there. But I guess because the plastic was already being utilized for the throne, that's... If maybe not the throne, I think maybe we may have gotten actually a mother box to come include with the figure. That being said, though, it's actually a really nice, interesting looking take on Lex Luthor. First of all, I like the head sculpt here. The paint, I don't know if deliberate or not. It kind of looks like he's got eyebrows, and it looks like he's then got the darker areas of his eyes as a different black. I mean, when you're looking at it like this, it looks like it's all the same black until you actually tilt it up. I wonder if they're supposed to be separate like that, or if, unfortunately, they just didn't airbrush the rest of the black in there. Unfortunately, one of his eyes looks like it's also been cut in there also. But it's a good head sculpt. I think it probably could have afforded a little bit of additional wash of paint. Bring out certainly some of the details on the face, not to mention the suit as well. The suit is really nicely sculpted. And to their credit, they did pick a really nice metallic blue to use for the figure. I always just feel like there's an opportunity always provided where they probably could have gone in there with a wash. Because washing over top of this with a darker color paint, I think really would have helped to bring all those details out. Especially like all the little indentations in his suit. By the way, in case you are curious, we can bring in the Lex Luthor that we looked at earlier. It seems to be using the same torso piece. Not, well, this part and this part seems to be the same. And I guess you could say as well, the arms are the same. It seems like the gauntlets are different, but there are a lot of shared elements that have one from one Lex Luthor to the other here. Just a little bit different of color. Now, actually, as well, this suit of Lex Luthor also had the additional shoulder parts to his torso, whereas this one has separate shoulder pieces that attach to the torso. Of course, there are some real considerable changes when we're looking at the main torso. The center area has his power source. The center area of this one actually has the Superman logo. I really like the look of that. Different colors, of course, the darker blue, the lighter blue, and an outline in red. Does make it look much separate then from the rest of his body. Move that Lex Luthor out of the way for the time being. Again, there's really a lot of time you could spend to focus in on different parts of the figure's body, where there's really a lot of neat molding that they did to the body molding here. And we can spin around to the back so you can see it. We'll talk more about the shoulders in a second when we talk about the articulation, but the shoulders are softer plastic, and they're attached here in his torso rather than attaching to the arm. And that's going to make things a lot easier when it comes to moving his arms out. The only thing I would be mentioning here, I think, in the case like this is I have no problems at all with the sculpting. The sculpting is really good on this guy. But I think, again, there's so much blue. There's a lot of blue going on here. And just short of the breakup of coloring that he has on his gauntlets outlined in red, he has a little bit of that also on his hands. And he has the outlining of that for the Superman logo. There is a lot of the same coloring of plastic that they've used here. And again, even if they had just washed it either with a black or just add a nice little bit of additional silver to that, I think it would have helped to bring out so many more of the features, so many more of the sculpting on the suit. You'd see a lot more of it without having to look really closely at it. It's a really nice looking design character, though. If you like the idea of Lex Luthor taking the throne of Apocalypse, then this figure is certainly right up your alley. Now let's talk a little bit about the articulation here on Lex Luthor. The head rotates all the way around. Even though he does have really the collar piece that goes around the stretched area of his shoulder, it doesn't get in the way of things. It helps certainly that's a softer plastic, but you can very easily rotate his head all the way around. You can move it up, and of course you can move it down. I kind of like the low look of Luthor, especially when he's sitting on the throne. You can also rock the head back and forth as well. When it comes to his shoulders, let's talk a little bit about his shoulders, shall we? The shoulder piece, of course, we already talked about the fact that that's part of his torso, so it's not part of his arm. So already, you don't have to worry about his arms getting in the way or butting up against the side of the shoulder pad piece that's going to move out of the way for you. He does also have the little socketed joints. It's a little harder to see it on this figure, granted, but he does have a little socket joint that allows then the arm to move out a little bit further and also allows the arm to come in a little bit more further as well. The figure's bicep does swivel. In addition to that, Luthor's elbow has a double hinge, so there's one and there's two there. And he does also have articulation in the hands. You can rotate those all the way around. For his torso, it's consisting of two parts. So this top part is its own ball joint, so that you can rotate that back and forth. But then he also has a secondary ball joint at the base, where it attaches to the waist. So between the two, you can actually get quite a bit of mileage out of moving the figure's torso. I could probably spend the rest of the review doing this. But I won't. Instead, what we'll do is we'll look at the legs. Once again, it seems like the legs are on ratcheted joints. Whenever I seem to say that, I was immediately cue it with looking at the under crotch area of the figure, so apologies for that. But he does have a couple little ledge points right here, where I don't know if you can actually hear it or not. but it seems to hit those little ledges. So it seems like he does have a ratchet joint working in there. The legs go forward, and the legs go back. The figure does also have a double hinge on the knee. No articulation here, because this is basically just the continuation sculpt of his calf. But the figure does have articulation in the toes. You can bring those forward and back. And you can also rock them back and forth this way as well. And he does also have toe articulation. Certainly just one last thing to wrap things up. I know we looked at the top torso and we kind of compared it with Lex Luthor, just in case you are curious to see what the lower half looks like. It looks like, yeah, they are using the same legs as well. And you can see right there. So it pretty much consists of, while it has a different torso piece for the shoulders, the arms are the same. The abdomen area appears to be the same. The lower waist, the thighs, the knees, and of course the lower legs as well. It goes to show, though, really, just changing the shoulder pads and changing the color of the plastic, how do you get two very distinctly different Luthors? Of course, and also this one has the powers of Darkseid as well. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. We'll bring back in his display stand. Not so much his display stand, his throne chair. And again, we just bend the legs. I guess I'm still happy that they included a display stand. So if you didn't want to have Luthor displayed on his throne, let's just say, I don't know, for some reason or another, you just don't have the space on a shelf to accommodate a throne, then yeah, at least they included a display stand too. But for me, the fact that they would have included this accessory, which I guess you could say is one of the biggest accessories we've gotten with a standalone figure, it's just, I find, too cool to pass on. And I'm definitely going to be displaying this Lex Luthor with the power suit, with his throne, as of course it was included with the figure in the first place. Though this Lex Luthor has a lot of samesies to the other Lex Luthor that we already had a look at, it's the color change of plastic, the different shoulder pad pieces that they use, and of course a different head sculpt that still make this Lex Luthor look very different than the Lex Luthor that we looked at before. Not to mention as well, this one does benefit from having the throne. Too cool to pass on when it comes to displaying this figure if you have, of course, the available space to do it. Still, though, I draw your attention to the back of the packaging. There's advertised an image. That's figure photography that they use, and it looks like they probably just added after the fact a little mother box. It's teased because I would love to have seen this figure come included with a mother box. Maybe, if anything, scrap the black display stand that could have come with this figure and instead use that plastic and dedicate it towards the mother box. My guess is that they probably used so much of the budget for the producing of this figure to produce this throne that to give them then a mother box after the fact, they probably would have had to increase the price of the figure. Still, though, maybe that down the road we may get another version of this Lex Luthor with the power suit, and then yeah, by all means then, maybe scrap the idea of giving him a throne and instead give him the mother box. I would love to see the figure displayed with a mother box. Still a nice looking Lex Luthor. Could have used a little bit of additional paint, because again, like there's a lot of blue on blue on blue, but still a nice looking Lex Luthor, especially when you have him displayed with the throne. A big thank you to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that provide the sample of the new Lex Luthor power suit that we could have a look at in this review. What do you guys think of the figure? Let me know down below in the comments section. And if you guys are new to this channel, you're enjoying, let's hope you're enjoying all the content you've been seeing as of late. We've been putting out a lot of content as of late as well, because there's definitely a lot of DC Multiverse reviews coming your way. All again, thanks to the folks over at McFarlane Toys. But if you are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure that, yes, you're turning on the bell notification, and come back to this channel, please and thank you, because there's definitely going to be a lot more McFarlane Toys reviews coming your way in the not so distant future. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.